Welcome to a new edition of Africa Today, where we get you the latest news and events taking place on the local scene. And we start off with our major reports. Libya reopened on Friday its airport in the main southern city, of which had been closed since January 2014 due to security problems. We have more details in the following report.
Libya reopened on Friday its airport in the main southern city of Sebha, which has been closed since January 2014 due to security problems. A commercial flight landed from the main eastern city of Benghazi. Southern Libya has been gripped by worse insecurity and chaos than the rest of the North African country since the toppling of Muammar al-Qaddafi in 2011, although security in Sebha is better than in other parts of the impoverished region. In Marzouk town to the west of Sebha, at least 90 people have been killed and 6,500 displaced since fighting broke out between different tribesmen in August, according to the United Nations. Meanwhile, a charity rescue ship carrying 134 migrants, mostly Africans, waited off the coast of Italy as a battle between former political allies in Rome stopped it docking at the southern island of Lampedusa. Interior Minister Matteo Salvini has ordered his officials to prevent the boat disembarking the migrants who were rescued off Libya 16 days ago in defiance of his own prime minister, and despite 6 European Union nations agreeing to take them.
And moving on to Zimbabwe, tensions between Zimbabwe's main opposition party and President Emmerson Mnangagwa's government escalated into violence in the country's capital on Friday after a court ruled against a planned opposition protest. We have more details in this report.
Riot police in Zimbabwe on Friday fired tear gas and beat demonstrators who defied a protest ban as the opposition accused President Emmerson Mnangagwa's government of suppressing Robert Mugabe's regime in brutality. Scores of people gathered in a square in the capital Harare to demonstrate against the country's worsening economy, despite massive police deployment and a ban upheld by court the same morning. Police cornered one group of protesters and beat them with batons. Police said in a statement they had arrested 91 people for various offenses, but rights groups said they had been 128 arrests. Dozens of police were deployed in running battles with protesters, many of them from the opposition movement for democratic change, MDC. The protest took place in Africa Unity Square overlooking the Zimbabwean parliament. Is where crowds gathered in November 2017 to demand Mugabe, the country's long-time autocratic ruler, step down. The protest went ahead after MDC plans for large-scale marches were banned by police late Thursday.
Welcome back, and still with the African scene, Congo said on Friday that its year-long Ebola outbreak had spread to a third province, with 2 new cases confirmed in the current outbreak, the second largest in recorded history. Details follow.
Ebola spread to a new part of Democratic Republic of Congo is a disrupting sign that health workers are failing to keep track of high-risk people on the move. A woman and her child were confirmed to be the first 2 Ebola cases in Congo's South Kivu province this week, after traveling more than 700 kilometers south from where they likely caught the disease. The outbreak had previously been contained to North Kivu and Ituri provinces, with a few cases in neighboring Uganda. Ebola has killed at least 1,900 people in the past year, the biggest toll after 11,300 died in West Africa in 2014 to 2016. Ebola causes vomiting, bleeding, and diarrhea, and spreads via contact with bodily fluids of the infected. A breakthrough this week showed they may be a cure, as 2 experimental drugs were found to boost survival rates. WHO deployed a rapid response team and plans to vaccinate everyone in the village where the woman died.
Welcome back, and moving on to our main topic, which is the current status of in Libya and Egypt's support to the Libyan government. And we're joined over the phone by Dr. Sharif Amir, political analyst. Good afternoon, Dr. Sharif.
Good afternoon.
Dr. Sharif, the Libyan parliament have hailed the Egyptian state's role in supporting Libya in the fight against terrorism and also backing the parliament as the only elected body. How do you see the significance of Egypt's role in supporting the Libyan government?
Well, it's from the beginning, since the start of the unfortunate conflict there in Libya. Egypt showed its keen to preserve the lives of the innocent civilians there. President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi was very clear from the beginning: stability has to be brought back to this war-torn country. It's not only about the dangerous aspects facing Egypt, Algeria, Tunisia, Sudan because of the conflict in Libya, and it's not only about the illegal immigration and the threat to the EU, to Europe. It's about the people of Libya, and this is what Egypt was trying to explain to the international community since the beginning, that we had to find 2 things. Someone who represents the Libyan people, and it's Field Marshal Khalifa Haftar, and the Egyptian diplomacy, and Mr. Samah Shukri worked hardly in bringing this personality to the West and presenting him, and we succeeded in doing it. The second thing was about lifting the embargo, the armed embargo, which was imposed on the Libyan army at the time of Colonel Gaddafi. Now the regime is gone, and Libya has to have arms to fight terrorism. I think that President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi spared no effort in all the meetings with our friends in Europe to explain that we have to endorse the Libyan army, who is being elected by the people of Libya, that they have to fight terrorism with newly weapons. Well, okay, well, we are very happy to see the parliament working. It's very important they came to Egypt. We are endorsing the political settlement. But what about the terrorist factions terrorizing the civilians, terrorizing the populations there? There is no way to go through any political agreement without cleaning this aspect of terrorism. I'm happy to hear yesterday that the armed forces of Libya, under the guide of General Haftar, yesterday cleaned some pockets held by factions loyal to Turkey and financed there, and they liberated these places, and it came under the Libyan sovereignty again. So I think that Egypt and President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi would not stop defending the cause of the Libyan people. We are the president of the African Union, and we have the responsibility. This is an honest responsibility. We have to explain to the international community that the people of Libya deserve better than that.
Right. Well, sir, Egypt hailed the humanitarian truce declared by Libyan parties on the occasion of Eid al-Adha, stressing that it's a positive step towards building confidence between Libyan parties. How do you see the significance of this truce?
Well, of course it's a positive thing, because it means that the parties are getting to their senses again, especially of the Sarraj forces. They are getting to their senses that there has to be a truce at time of holidays, especially religious holidays. Enough blood has been shed since 2011. The people of Libya need to have some rest, need to focus on their development if there is a chance to do it. So this is positive, and Egypt was the first country to endorse such a truce, and we hailed it and we continue to endorse any truce between the factions who are not financed by outside forces, or between the factions who do not have among them any terrorist elements. If there is some factions belonging to any political party in Libya who is fighting with the arms, there could be settlement. But if there is real conflict with terrorist groups, well, this has to be stopped immediately. We will not spare any effort as all the nations, I'm not talking only about Egypt, all the nations fighting terrorism, liberating Benghazi, liberating Sirte. This would have to take place immediately because there is no place for Daesh and the terrorist groups there, or the influence of Turkey and Qatar in this country.
Right. Well, sir, how far do you think this truce will be successful in removing barriers between Libyan factions and Libyan parties?
Well, let's be realistic. We will not dream a lot. There's still some factions, unfortunately, working for other outside forces that are really keen that such a truce go on. We have seen that the Turkish dictator Erdogan said that they will intervene in Libya, so he's clear about his intentions. Some forces on the ground working for him, working for Qatar. Their aim is not only Libya, their aim is to destabilize Egypt. Let's be very clear about that. But thank God we have an excellent and prestigious armed forces, very aware and very alerted on the western borders of Egypt. We have the excellent technology, and we have, of course, the leadership of President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, who knows that there is time for diplomacy and time to show that Egypt's sovereignty is a red line. So I think that the truce could be shaky, but the fact that it has begun this time, it could happen again and again, and then I think that once that the Libyan factions will understand that there is a strong army and strong leader of this army, Field Marshal Khalifa Haftar, and a parliament who is exercising with total freedom its political duties, I think that things will be very clear to all these factions and all these outside forces that it's time to just back off and let the Libyan people decide their own future.
Right. Well, Egypt is keen that Libya will overcome the crisis to establish the foundations of a stable and sovereign civil state. How do you see the future?
Well, as I told you, the question of Libya is very complex because Libya is an oil-rich country, and there is many forces who wish to control these riches. And there is also the fact that there is also the gang members of the illegal immigration working there. Unfortunately, through all the time, since the downfall of the Gaddafi regime in 2011, there's all these bad elements who have been gaining financially from this conflict. This is exactly the main obstacle, is that the people there have to get rid of these factions, of these criminal organizations working to destabilize all the Mediterranean and who are smuggling also oil to Turkey. So I think that the future is related to one thing. Or let's say one of them, there's two things, but one of them is guaranteed. What is guaranteed is the will of the people of Libya to find stability. The second thing, which is very crucial, is that the international community has to listen to Egypt's demands, has to listen to President Sisi's views, and they listened before. And I'm very proud that Chancellor Angela Merkel, President Donald Trump, President Vladimir Putin, they contacted all President Sisi when the conflict with the terrorist attack started on the ground in Libya, and this ground attack was started, and they contacted President Sisi because they know that he has a vision of stability in this region. And he said it before, and he warned about it, and it's happening. So it's all related about total agreement. As is happening now in Syria, they have to also sit down and say enough is enough, let's settle things in Libya, and let's tell Turkey and Qatar to stop intervening, and that Libya has to find a new prospects of liberty. Unfortunately, the UN tried its best to find solutions, but as we see in many conflicts, it's not really useful now. So I think it depends on Egypt that we will go on. Rather, there are objections, there is difficulties, but there is nothing impossible. We have to go on by defending the cause of the Libyan people and the national army of Libya. And I think then the international community, as they did before, they will again listen to President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi and his advice about this conflict.
Mm-hmm. Right. Dr. Sharif, in your opinion, how did the unstable situation in Libya influence or affect its economy?
Our economy or their economy?
Their economy.
Their economy. Well, it has destroyed the economy of Libya. I just mentioned, even the oil was smuggled to Turkey. Imagine that Turkey had these gangs working for them, smuggling the oil of a foreign country to their market. This is extremely nonsense. And then there was also the gangs trying to profit from the misery of the people and exporting them to Europe through the illegal immigration. All that destroyed the economy of Libya. I think that it's never too late. Because President Sisi, as he said before, it always, and he repeated it since the first day in his mandate, he said it's all depending on the youth. That's why we have the youth conferences. I think that the young people in Libya who said we're going to join the army to defend our country, there are always, and there are also young people in Libya who will say we will have to rebuild the economy of our country. It will take time because there's tribal mentality there, and it will take time because they lived in fear for many decades. But now I think that under the new aspects of the African development, which President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi presented, that African countries, we have to work together. So I think that we have a duty to work with the Libyan youth. We will introduce them to their economy, and I think that we will have shared projects, and then the people will appreciate the country who helped them to rebuild their economy, and they will know the country who harmed them and destroyed and robbed their economy, which is Turkey.
Right.
So I think that things are very clear now. Who is working for the best of the international community? Always when we work for the best, it takes time. Destroying takes little. So the construction takes long time. But I think that President Sisi, he has a view, he has a vision, and this vision is very, very profound because it's based on geopolitical studies.
Right, Dr. Sharif Amir, always a pleasure having you. Dr. Sharif Amir, Professor of International Relations, thank you very much for joining us. And with this, ladies and gentlemen, we come to the end of this edition of Africa Today. Many thanks for watching and stay tuned for more coming up here on Nile TV International.